阿晚关注一下香港大埔的火灾，就是宏福苑致命大火考验北京对香港的统治。那其实可以从近期的一些社交媒体、社交平台上，就是看到普通民众就是开始有各种的，就是纪念啊，或者怎么样的，但是好像受到了控制，所以这个是一个怎么说呢？一国两制变成一制之后，就是这种跟大陆统一了的那种关系吧。本周社交媒体上流传的画面显示，中国消防车停在边境，警灯闪烁，等待被派往约13公里外的香港北部肆虐的大火现场。那这些消防车最终是未能进入香港。在中国社交媒体上，人们质疑为什么香港不接受内地的消防支援，即使香港自己的消防部门奋力扑救超过一天仍难以控制大火，最终造成至少128人死亡。这一时刻凸显了由北京支持的行政长官李家超所面临的微妙政治考验。李家超需要证明，在经历了彻底的政治改革，北京加大对香港政府控制力度之后，他的政府仍能自行应对如此规模的危机。如果内地的应急人员跨境进入香港，可能会被视作削弱香港管理自身事务的承诺。大家应该注意，这可能会给人留下香港无法处理香港内部事务的印象。李家超的高级顾问汤家岳说，港府周四表示，并未向内地提出消防援助请求。那李家超是表示说，政府正逐步控制火势，并感谢国家最高领导人他的上司习近平的关心。2019年的反政府抗议活动后，北京在香港实施的新制度，包括一部严厉的国安法，压制了异见，也改变了这座城市应对危机的方式。反对派政治人物入狱，媒体受到新的约束，街头示威已不复存在，许多公民团体被迫解散。问题在于，这套重构的政治秩序是否具备处理危机的能力，而不仅仅是压力下对危机处理方式的批评。李家超的政府面临着一项艰巨的任务。周五，消防员终于进入宏福苑7栋被烧毁的建筑废墟后，死亡人数急剧上升至100多人，数百名惊魂未定、疲惫不堪的居民涌入庇护所，约200人。失踪者的家人仍在寻找亲人，遇难者遗体需要辨认身份。政府已拨款约3亿港元用于救济受害者，并开始向受影响的家庭发放1万港元的补助。尽管北京的打压摧毁了许多独立活动的团体，但火灾之后涌现出一股令人瞩目的志愿者热潮，帮助那些有需要的人。包括学生和小企业主在内的志愿者分发食物、水和保暖衣物，将当地的商铺改造成捐赠中心，并组成人链，高效地运送物资。在线聊天群和实施追踪系统，帮助协调各方面的工作。社工和心理咨询师也主动联系有需要的人。即使在危机时刻，当局显然也对独立的组织行动保持警惕。周六可以看到安保人员在公寓楼附近巡逻。南华早报报道称，由于居民组织起来帮助火灾受害者，香港的国安警察已加强了对潜在的煽动和分裂活动的监控。数百名失去家园的居民将被暂时安置在旅馆和酒店，但长期安置可能是最棘手的任务之一。香港是世界上房价最贵的城市，可负担住房长期短缺 对63岁的潘启德和他68岁的妻子新西亚流这样流离失所的居民来说，住房是首要关切。他们目前住在距离家1个小时火车车程的酒店里。刘女士说，政府提出让他们搬到大埔以外的乡郊地区，因为她丈夫每周都要去那里的一家医院做3次透析治疗，还是很远。她说，我们这里的老人家好多都要在大埔看医生。政府还需要重塑公众对香港建筑业及其监管体系的信心。警方将对事发大楼的内部开展为期数周的调查，审查监控录像，力图还原事件真相。警方已经逮捕了与负责维修大楼维修工程的承包商有关的3人，罪名是严重疏忽和误杀。周五，廉政公署在另一项调查中又逮捕了8人。北京支持的研究机构全国香港澳研究会的顾问刘兆佳表示，在协调不同政府部门处理善后时，外界也期待李家超借此展现港府政府温情的一面，以及香港新政治秩序的优越性。作为这个时候最该站出来安抚市民的人，李家超对担任这样的角色并无多少经验。他职业生涯的大部分时间都在安保部门任职，并曾牵头对抗议活动的镇压。周三晚间，他探望了在医院接受治疗的伤者，并视察了一处庇护所。在记者会上，他着重详述了政府所采取的措施。周六，他带领官员为火灾遇难者默哀3分钟。尚不清楚他是否已与罹难家属见面。港府此前希望提高12月7日立法会选举投票率。火灾原因所引发的质疑已经给这一愿望蒙上阴影。自北京进行改革只允许被认为是爱国者的人参选以来，民众对此次选举普遍态度冷漠。本周竞选活动已停止，但李家超是否会推迟选举尚不明确。随着更多的安全漏洞浮现，公众的愤怒逐渐升温。愤怒情绪是在升温。幸存者抱怨火灾时没有收到任何警示，官方随后证实，该住宅区所有8栋大楼内的警报均未响起。人们质疑为何建筑承包商被允许用易燃泡沫覆盖窗户，并用明显极易燃烧的网状物包裹高层公寓。那李家超开展的失职调查可能会受到北京的密切关注，一些官员可能需要承担责任。观察内地处理危机的做法，通常会追究个别官员的责任。香港政治分析家、研究中港关系的专家卢兆新说，所有问题就是内地的做法会不会在香港也适用。每年12月，香港行政长官都会前往北京向中央政府述职。卢兆新表示，今年本该一样，只是李家超预计必须就这场危机提交一份实质性的报告。专家表示，北京也会期待李家超按照内地惯例的危机处理方式，在此期间更多的接受中央政府的支持。但这样的援助对李家超来说可能充满政治风险。在一次记者会上，有记者问他，中央派人救灾是否反映出政府的工作存在不足？李家超回避了这种暗示，强调这是习近平对香港高度关注的体现。这也提醒外界，他在这场危机中的表现最终是要向谁做出交代。那你又是怎么看呢？ Deadly Hong Kong fire is a test of Beijing's rule in the city. The images on social media this week showed Chinese fire engines parked at the border, their lights flashing as they waited to be dispatched towards the inferno that was raging 8 miles away in northern Hong Kong. The trucks never entered the city. On Chinese social media, people questioned why Hong Kong did not take the firefighting help, even as its own fire trucks struggled to extinguish the blaze that burned for more than a day and eventually resulted in at least 128 deaths. The moment underscored the delicate political challenge for the city's Beijing-backed Chief Executive John Lee. Mr. Lee needs to demonstrate that his government, under tighter control by Beijing after a sweeping political overhaul, can manage a crisis of this magnitude on its own. If mainland emergency crews have crossed into Hong Kong, it risks being seen as undermining the city's promise of ruling its own affairs. People should be sensitive to the image that may arise that Hong Kong people are unable to deal with matters with Hong Kong, said Ronnie Tong, a senior advisor to Mr. Lee. Hong Kong said on Thursday that it has not asking for firefighting assistance from the mainland. Mr. Lee said that his government was gradually getting the fire under control and thanked China's top leader and his boss, Xi Jinping, for his concern. The system that Beijing imposed on Hong Kong after anti-government protests of 2019 with a sweeping national security law that has silenced dissent has altered the face of the city's crisis response. Opposition politicians are in jail. The media operates under new restraints. Street demonstrations are a scene of the past, and many civil groups have been forced to close. The question is whether the remained political order can deliver in a crisis, rather than merely mural criticism of how it is handled. His government has a gargantuan task ahead. The death toll on Friday rose sharply above 100 after firefighters were finally able to enter the remains of the seven Chang buildings at the Wang Fu Court complex. Hundreds of shocked and tired residents have piled into shelters. Families are still looking for some 200 missing loved ones. Bodies need to be identified. Across $38 million of the government funds had been allocated for victims, and the government began disbursing around $1,300 in subsidies for affected families. Even though China's crackdown wiped out many independent activities groups, a remarkable wave of volunteerism has risen to help those in need after the blaze. Volunteers, including students and small business owners, have distributed food, water, and warm clothing, transforming local shops into donation centers and forming human chains to move supplies efficiently. Online chat groups and live trackers have helped coordinate efforts. Social workers and therapists have reached out to attend to those in need. The authorities are apparently wary of independent organizing, even in crises. On Saturday, security officers could be seen patrolling the area near the apartment complex in the South China Morning Post reported that the city's national security police have ramped up surveillance against potential sanitarians and secessionist activities in response to residents mobilizing to help victims of the fire. Hundreds of residents who lost their homes will be placed into hotels and hotels temporarily, but longer term resettlement is probably one of the target tasks. Hong Kong's housing market is among the world's most expensive, and affordable units are in chronically short supply. For displaced residents like the Pong Kai Tak, 63, and his wife Sincere, now 68, housing is the top concern. They are staying at a hotel an hour away by train, but Ms. Lau said the government had offered to relocate them to a rural area outside of Tapu because her husband gets disdained treatment 3 times a week at a hospital there. It's still very far, she said. Many of us need to be in the area for medical checkups. The government will also need to restore confidence in the city's construction industry and in its supervision of it. The police will begin a multi-week investigation inside the buildings, reviewing the CCTV footage and trying to piece together what happened. 8 more people were arrested on Friday in a separate investigation by the Anti-Corruption Bureau, on top of an earlier shooting arrested by the police for gross negligence and manslaughter in connection to a contractor that was conducting renovations on the buildings. As Mr. Lee begins the hard work of coordinating different government agents in its aftermath, he will also be expected to use the moment to showcase both the softer side of the government and the superiority of Hong Kong's new political order, said Lau Shikai, a consultant for the Chinese Association of Hong Kong and Macau Studies, a Beijing-backing research group. As a controller-in-chief, Mr. Lee, who spent most of his career in security surveys and led a crackdown on the protests, is relatively untested. On Wednesday night, he visited people who were being treated at a hospital and inspected a shelter. At news briefings, Mr. Lee has focused on detailing the measures taken by the government. On Saturday, he led government officials in observing 3 minutes of silence for victims of the fire. It was not immediately clear if he had met with families who loved ones and had perished. For the government, questions about how such an inferno occurred cast a heavy shadow over the city's earlier hopes of getting more people to vote in legislative elections on December 7. The poll has largely been met with public indifference since Beijing imposed an overhaul that allowed only people deemed patriots to run for seats. accompanying efforts were put on hold this week, but it was not clear yet whether Mr. Li would postpone on the election. Public anger is growing as signs of safety deaths have started to emerge after survivors complained that there was no warning of the fire. Officials confirmed that none of the alarms had gone off in any of 8 buildings in the housing estate. People questioned how the building contractor was allowed to cover windows in highly flammable foam and wrap the high-rise apartments in netting that appeared to catch fire easily. Mr. Li might be scrutinized by Beijing for his government's investigations into wrongdoing, and some officials may have to shoulder responsibility. When we observe mainland practice of dealing with craze, usually individual officers are held accountable, said Sonido, a political analyst in Hong Kong who is an expert on the relationship between Hong Kong and China. So the question is whether the mainland practice will be observed here. Each year in December, Hong Kong's chief executive travels to Beijing to present a report to the central government. The expectation was no different this year. Only Mr. Li will be expected to have something substantial to report on the case, Mr. Law said. Beijing will also expect Mr. Li to take on more support from the central government as part of long-standing practice by the Chinese government during moments of crisis, as per said. But such help could be politically fraught for Mr. Li. During one news conference, a reporter asked Mr. Li if the presence of the senior Chinese officer in the city who had arrived to offer support reflected shortcomings in the work of his government. Mr. Li avoided the implication and instead emphasized that it was a gesture of Mr. Xi's great concern, a reminder of whom his performance in this crisis ultimately matters most to. Thanks for your listening and hoping your life fully with happiness and joys.